You ever get that sinking feeling when you realize someone's been scheming behind your back for years? Well, I got that feeling the hard way, and it ended up costing my HOA $1.2 million. Let me tell you how a peaceful Sunday fishing trip turned into the legal battle of a lifetime. So picture this. It's a gorgeous Sunday morning in May, not a cloud in the sky. I'd been planning this fishing trip all week after working 60-hour days at the office. I grabbed my tackle box, my lucky rod, and headed out to my favorite spot on the planet, the lake on my ranch property. This isn't just any lake, mind you. I handpicked this land 12 years ago, specifically because it had this natural depression that was perfect for a private lake. Spent 2 years getting all the permits, hiring the excavation crew, installing the filtration system, and stocking it with largemouth bass, bluegill, and catfish. Cost me nearly $40,000, but it was worth every penny. This lake was my sanctuary, my little slice of heaven where I could unwind and forget about the corporate rat race. I'd been fishing this lake every weekend for over a decade. Never had a single problem. The property line is clearly marked. It's a good 100 yards from the nearest neighbor, and I've got all the documentation you could ever want proving it's mine. But as I'm setting up my chair and organizing my lures, I hear this engine roaring up my private driveway. I look up and see this white Mercedes SUV with tinted windows barreling toward me like it's responding to a 5-alarm. Fire. The thing screeches to a halt about 20 feet away, and out steps Karen. Now, Karen had been the HOA president for about 3 years at this point. She was one of those people who treated the position like she was running a small country. Designer clothes, perfectly styled hair, and this attitude like she owned the entire neighborhood. She'd moved here from some gated community in California and immediately decided our little Texas subdivision needed upgrading. She storms over with this manila folder clutched in her hands and says, "Excuse me, but you cannot fish here." I'm thinking this is some kind of joke. I literally own the land I'm standing on. So I chuckle and say, "Karen, this is my property. I built this lake. I can fish here whenever I want." Her face goes red as a tomato. "Sir, all recreational water activities in this community fall under HOA jurisdiction. You're in violation of Section 15C of our community guidelines." I set down my rod and really look at her. She's dead serious. "Karen, this lake isn't in the community. It's on my private ranch land. Your HOA has no authority here." She opens that folder and pulls out this official-looking document. According to our updated community asset registry, this lake is classified as a shared recreational facility. You need written permission from the board to use it. I'm starting to get that familiar feeling you get when someone's trying to gaslight you. "Show me that document," I say. She clutches it to her chest like it's classified government secrets. "This is official HOA business. I don't have to show you anything, but I will be reporting this violation to the proper authorities." And before I can say another word, she's back in her Mercedes, tires squealing as she speeds off my property. I figured that was the end of it. Karen throwing her weight around, making empty threats. I went back to fishing and caught 3 nice bass that afternoon. But around dinner time, I'm cleaning my catch when I see 2 police cruisers coming up my driveway. 2 officers get out, and I can tell they're not thrilled to be here. The older one, Sergeant Martinez, walks over and says, "Sir, we got a call about someone fishing without proper permits on community property." I explain the situation, show them my property deed, my lake construction permits, everything. Sergeant Martinez looks at the paperwork and shakes his head. "This is clearly your land, sir. I'm not sure why we're here." But then Karen shows up again. She must have been waiting down the road or something. She comes marching over with that same folder and starts going off about environmental violations and unauthorized recreational activities. The younger officer asks to see her documentation. She opens the folder and pulls out what looks like an official HOA filing claiming my lake as a community recreational asset for the enhancement of property values. Sergeant Martinez takes one look at it and says, "Ma'am, this document doesn't override private property rights. If this gentleman owns the land and built the lake legally, he can fish there. Karen's not having it." She starts raising her voice, talking about how I'm being aggressive and non-compliant, and how the HOA board voted unanimously to regulate all water activities in the area. That's when something clicked. I asked to see that document again, right there in black and white. It listed my lake as a community asset and claimed it added $200,000 in recreational value to the neighborhood property assessments. The officers could see this was turning into a civil matter, so they basically told Karen to take it up through proper legal channels and left. But I was just getting started. First thing Monday morning, I called my attorney. Not just any lawyer, Tom Richards, a guy who'd made a career out of fighting overreaching HOAs. When I explained the situation and showed him Karen's document, his eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "They've been using your private property to inflate their community valuations?" he asked. "Do you know what that is?" "That's fraud." We started digging deeper. Turns out, Karen and the HOA board had been even busier than I thought. They'd included my lake in marketing materials for new home sales. They'd used it to justify higher HOA fees, claiming the money went toward maintaining community recreational facilities. They'd even taken out additional insurance policies covering community water features, including my lake. But here's the kicker. They'd been doing this for 3 years without my knowledge or consent. Every new homeowner in the subdivision had been told they'd have access to exclusive lakefront recreation. Some people had specifically bought homes here because of that lake. Tom filed a lawsuit that was a thing of beauty. Trespassing, fraud, misrepresentation, defamation, and violation of property rights. But the real nuclear option was the discovery process. We subpoenaed all the HOA's financial records, marketing materials, and board meeting minutes. What we found was worse than I'd imagined. The HOA had collected over $300,000 in additional fees over 3 years, supposedly for lake maintenance and recreational facility upkeep. They'd spent exactly $0 on my lake because, of course, they had no legal right to touch it. Karen had personally pocketed about $50,000 in facility management bonuses for overseeing community recreational assets. The other board members had voted themselves similar bonuses for enhanced community value management. When we got to court, Karen showed up with some bargain basement lawyer who clearly hadn't done his homework. He tried to argue that since the lake was visible from community property, it constituted a shared visual amenity, subject to HOA oversight. Judge Patterson shut that down real quick. "Counselor, can I see the sunset from my backyard? Does that make me responsible for regulating the sun?" Karen took the stand and tried to paint me as this aggressive, non-compliant homeowner who was damaging community unity. But when Tom started cross-examining her, everything fell apart. "Ms. Karen, you claimed this lake was a community asset. Is your name on the property deed?" "No, but did you contribute any money to its construction?" "No, however. Did you have any legal authority to include private property in HOA valuations?" The board voted, "That's not what I asked." "Did you have legal authority?" She couldn't answer that one. Then, Tom pulled out the smoking gun. Internal HOA emails we'd found during discovery. Karen had actually written to the other board. "Members, we need to find ways to boost our community asset values. That lake is perfect. It's not like he can move it. And most people don't read the fine print anyway." Another email showed her planning to gradually expand HOA authority over high-value private amenities to increase our leverage in the community. The judge was not amused. When it came time for his ruling, he didn't mince words. "This court finds that the defendants engaged in a systematic scheme to defraud both the plaintiff and community homeowners by misrepresenting private property as community assets for financial gain." The damage award was beautiful. $400,000 for the money they'd illegally collected using my property. $300,000 in punitive damages for fraud. $200,000 for defamation and harassment. $150,000 for legal fees. And another $150,000 for ongoing reputational damage to property values. Total, $1.2 million, but wait, it gets better. The judge also ordered the immediate dissolution of the current HOA board and banned Karen from holding any HOA position in the county for 10 years. The Homeowners Association had to send letters to every resident explaining what had happened and refunding 3 years of fraudulent fees. Karen tried to appeal, but her insurance company the same, one that had been paying premiums on my lake, refused to cover fraud claims. She ended up having to sell her house to pay her share of the judgment. The best part? The new HOA board asked if they could put up a small plaque by the lake thanking me for protecting community integrity. I said sure, as long as it mentioned that the lake is private property and Karen's lawsuit helped pay for the new fishing dock. I built with part of the settlement money. These days, every time I cast a line in my lake, I think about how Karen's greed and overreach ended up funding my early retirement. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well, especially when it's funded by the people who tried to steal from you. The moral of the story? Always read the fine print, document everything, and never underestimate what a power-hungry HOA president will do when they think nobody's watching. And if you're thinking about taking on someone's private property rights, you better make sure you've got the law on your side, because it's going to cost you a lot more than $1.2 million if you don't. Want to hear more HOA horror stories? Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to deal with a neighbor who thought they owned more than they actually did? Trust me, after 12 years of dealing with HOAs, I've got plenty more stories where this came from.